The life you keep postponing is the one you are already living. Imagine this. Right now, in a hospital room you will never see, someone is lying in a bed they will never leave. Their hands are thin. Their breathing is slow. And the only thought circling through their mind is not about money. It is not about status. It is not about the car they never bought or the promotion they never received. The only thought they keep returning to again and again, like a song that will not stop playing, is this: I wish I had one more ordinary morning, one more cup of coffee by the window, one more walk where I felt the air on my skin and actually noticed it, one more evening where I sat with someone I loved and was not distracted by my phone, my worries, or my rush to get somewhere else. Just one more unremarkable day, the kind I used to throw away like it meant nothing. Now let that satisfying for a moment, because here is the part that should shake you awake. You still have that morning. You still have that walk. You still have that evening. You are living inside the kind of day that someone else is begging the universe for, and there is a very real chance you are about to waste it. Not because you are a bad person, not because you do not care, but because somewhere along the way you picked up a habit that most people never even notice they have. The habit of postponing your own life. And that is exactly what we need to talk about. Because if you stay with me through this, I believe something inside you is going to shift. Not in a dramatic movie-style way, but in the quiet, honest way that actually changes how you wake up tomorrow. So please do not scroll past this. Do not save it for later. Later is the exact trap we are going to dismantle together. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly enjoyed a regular day? Not a vacation, not a birthday, not a celebration, just a normal, nothing special kind of day. And you actually felt alive inside of it? If you are being honest, it has probably been a while, and you are not alone in that. Most people are not enjoying their lives, not because their lives are terrible, but because they have convinced themselves that enjoyment is something that belongs to a future version of their life, a version that is shinier, more stable, more successful, more figured out. They keep telling themselves a story that sounds responsible on the surface, but is quietly devastating underneath. The story goes like this: I will be happy when. I will be happy when I get the promotion. I will be happy when I pay off the debt. I will be happy when I find the right relationship. I will be happy when I move to a better place. I will be happy when my body looks a certain way. I will be happy when life finally calms down. And the cruel joke is, life never fully calms down. Have you noticed that? You solve one problem and another one is already forming in the background. You reach one goal, and before the satisfaction even settles into your bones, your brain is already whispering about the next thing you should be chasing. It is like climbing a mountain only to realize that the top was just a ridge, and behind it is another mountain, and another one after that. And the whole time you were so focused on getting to the peak that you forgot to look around and notice how beautiful the view already was halfway up. This is the trap. Not that life is hard. Life will always have hard parts. The trap is believing that you need to reach the other side of hard before you are allowed to feel good. That is the lie. That is the silent thief. And most people do not even realize they have been robbed until the years start stacking up and they look back and think, where did all that time go? I was supposed to start living eventually. Let me paint you a picture. Think about someone standing in a beautiful garden. The sun is warm, the flowers are blooming, there is a gentle breeze, but this person is standing in the middle of all that beauty, staring at their phone, reading about a garden somewhere else that looks better. They are comparing. They are worrying about whether their garden is good enough. They are making a mental list of everything that is wrong with the soil, the fence, the layout, and they never once sit down on the grass, close their eyes, and just feel the sun. That person is most of us. We are standing in the middle of lives that have real beauty in them, imperfect, messy, unfinished beauty, and we are too distracted, too stressed, and too future-focused to notice any of it. Now, I am not saying this to make you feel guilty. Guilt is not the goal here. Awareness is, because once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. And once you cannot unsee it, you start making different choices. Small ones at first, but they add up. Here's what I want you to understand, and I mean really let this land. Your life is not a rehearsal for some better version that is coming later. This is it. This Tuesday morning, this rainy afternoon, this cup of tea that is getting cold while you read this. This moment where your back hurts a little and your to-do list feels long and nothing particularly exciting is happening. This is your life, and it is not less valuable just because it is ordinary. In fact, the ordinary is where most of life actually lives. The extraordinary moments, the weddings, the big wins, the dream vacations, those are beautiful, but they are rare. They are the punctuation marks in a very long sentence. The sentence itself is made of ordinary days. And if you refuse to enjoy the sentence, you are essentially refusing to enjoy most of your life. Think about that. If you only allow yourself to feel happy during peak moments, and peak moments make up maybe 5% of your entire existence, then you are choosing to be unhappy for 95% of the time you are alive. That is not a strategy. That is a slow kind of self-abandonment. So what does it actually look like to enjoy life before it is perfect? It looks like drinking your morning coffee and actually tasting it instead of gulping it down while mentally rehearsing your day. It looks like walking to your car and noticing the sky instead of staring at the pavement while your mind replays an argument from last week. It looks like sitting with your partner or your friend and actually listening to what they are saying instead of waiting for your turn to talk. It looks like finishing a task at work and pausing for 10 seconds to acknowledge that you did something, instead of immediately jumping to the next thing on the list. These are not grand gestures. They are micro moments of presence, and they are available to you every single day, completely free of charge. You do not need to buy anything. You do not need anyone's permission. You do not need your life to change first. You just need to stop waiting and start noticing. There is a concept I keep coming back to, and it has changed the way I think about almost everything. It goes like this. You can hold two things at the same time. You can acknowledge that your life has problems and still find something to appreciate today. You can feel stressed about the future and still enjoy this meal. You can wish things were different and still be grateful for what is here. These are not contradictions. They are the full human experience. And when you stop forcing yourself to choose between struggling and enjoying, something opens up inside you, a kind of permission that most people never give themselves, because that is really what it comes down to: permission. So many people are waiting for someone or something to tell them it is okay to be happy now. They feel like they need to earn it first, like joy is a reward that only comes after all the work is done. But the work is never done, so the joy never comes. And they spend their whole life being responsible, being productive, being impressive, and being quietly miserable. I want to tell you something that might sound simple, but is actually one of the most radical things you can believe. You are allowed to enjoy your life right now. Not when you lose the weight. Not when you get the job. Not when the kids are grown. Not when you finally feel like you have it all together. Now, today, in the middle of the mess, in the middle of the uncertainty, in the middle of the struggle, you are allowed. Your problems are real. I am not dismissing them. Your stress is valid. Your challenges are legitimate. But they do not disqualify you from joy. Nothing does. Joy is not a luxury for people who have easy lives. Joy is a survival tool for people who have hard ones. It is what keeps your spirit from drying out. It is what reminds you why you are fighting in the first place. Let me give you an example. Think about someone training for a marathon. The training is grueling. Their legs hurt. Their lungs burn. Some mornings they do not want to get out of bed. But the good runners, the ones who actually make it to the finish line, are not the ones who grit their teeth through every single step with no enjoyment. They are the ones who learn to love the process. They notice how strong their body is becoming. They enjoy the runner's high. They appreciate the cool morning air. They feel proud after each run, even the short ones. They do not wait until the marathon is over to feel good. They find good along the way. That is the model. That is how you do this. You do not wait until your life's marathon is finished, because it never really finishes. You learn to find something good in the training, in the early mornings, in the sore muscles, in the messy middle. That is where life actually happens. And here is one more thing that I think is important to name, because nobody talks about it enough. Waiting for happiness is exhausting. It is not the peaceful, patient kind of waiting like waiting for a sunrise. It is the anxious, restless kind, like sitting in a waiting room where your name never gets called. You keep scanning the door. You keep checking the time. You keep thinking, surely it must be my turn soon. And meanwhile, life is happening all around you, in that very waiting room, and you are missing it because you are too focused on what is supposed to come next. What if you put the clipboard down? What if you stopped checking the door? What if you looked around the waiting room and noticed something worth appreciating? A patch of sunlight on the floor, a child laughing, the fact that you are still breathing and your heart is still beating and you have not run out of chances yet. What if the waiting room was never the problem? What if the way you were sitting in it was? Because here is the truth that most people do not realize until it is almost too late. The life you keep postponing is the one you are already living. The days you keep treating as placeholders, just stepping stones to some future that will finally be good enough, those days are your actual life. They are not the rough draft. They are the final copy. And every one you waste waiting is one you never get back. This is not meant to scare you. It is meant to free you. Because once you accept that this imperfect, complicated, ordinary day is not in the way of your real life. It is your real life. Everything shifts. You stop resisting the present. You stop punishing yourself for not being further along. You stop treating today like something to survive and start treating it like something to experience. And that is where we begin. That is the starting point for everything else we are going to talk about. Because you cannot enjoy the small things if you are always chasing the big things. You cannot feel the warmth of your life if your mind is always somewhere else. You cannot receive what is already here if your hands are always reaching for what is not. So take a breath, a real one, not a shallow automatic one, a deep, intentional one. Feel your chest expand. Feel the air fill your lungs, and remind yourself of something that is easy to forget in the noise of daily life. You are alive. You are here. And this moment, however quiet, however ordinary, however imperfect, this moment counts. Do not waste it waiting for a better one, because this is the one you have. And it is enough to begin. The tiny moments you keep ignoring are the ones you will miss the most. Let me tell you something that sounds almost too simple to be important, but I promise you, it might be one of the most life-changing realizations you ever have. The moments you will miss the most one day are not the ones you think. They are not the grand vacations. They are not the award ceremonies. They are not the milestones you posted about online. The moments that will hit you the hardest, the ones that will make your chest ache with longing when they are gone, are the ones you are probably ignoring right now. The sound of rain against your window while you sit inside, warm and safe. The smell of dinner cooking in the kitchen. The way your dog looks at you when you come home, like you are the most important person in the entire universe. The quiet 5 minutes you spend in your car after parking, just sitting, just breathing, before you walk inside and become someone's parent, someone's partner, someone's employee again. These moments do not announce themselves. They do not arrive with fireworks or background music. They slip in quietly, like a cat walking into a room, and most of the time you do not even notice they were there until they are gone. And that is the tragedy. Not that life does not give you beautiful things, but that your mind is too loud to receive them. Think about this for a second. When was the last time you ate a meal and actually tasted every bite? Not while scrolling through your phone, not while watching a show, not while mentally composing an email you need to send later. Just you and the food and the experience of nourishing your body. For most people, the honest answer is they cannot remember. And that is not because food has gotten worse. It is because attention has become the rarest resource on the planet. We live in an age where everything is competing for your attention. Your phone buzzes 17 times before lunch. Notifications pull you out of conversations. Algorithms feed you an endless river of other people's highlight reels. And in the middle of all that noise, the small, quiet, genuinely beautiful parts of your day do not stand a chance. They cannot compete with the dopamine hit of a new notification. They cannot shout louder than your anxiety about tomorrow. So they just sit there, waiting to be noticed, and eventually they pass, unappreciated, unacknowledged, uncelebrated. But here is what nobody tells you. Those small moments are not small at all. They just look small because you have been trained to believe that happiness is supposed to be big, loud, and obvious. You have been sold a version of joy that requires a beach in the Maldives, a six-figure salary, a perfect body, or a life that looks like a magazine cover. And because your real life does not look like that, you dismiss it. You walk right past the beauty in your own backyard because you are too busy staring at someone else's palace. Let me give you an image that I want you to carry with you. Imagine your life as a house, a big, beautiful house with many rooms, but you have been living in only one room, the room called not enough. You sit in that room all day staring at the walls, telling yourself that the house is ugly, that it needs renovation, that other people have nicer houses. Meanwhile, there are rooms in your house you have never even opened. There is a room called peaceful mornings. There is a room called deep conversations. There is a room called the way sunlight looks at 4 in the afternoon. There is a room called laughing until your stomach hurts. These rooms are already part of your house. They already belong to you, but you will never enjoy them if you never walk through the door. That is what noticing small joys is. It is not adding something new to your life. It is finally seeing what was already there. And I get it. I really do. This sounds like one of those things that is easy to say and hard to do. Just be present. Just appreciate the little things. It almost sounds like a greeting card, but the reason it sounds cliché is not because it is untrue. It is because most people hear it, nod, and then immediately go back to overthinking about next month's rent. The problem is not that the advice is wrong. The problem is that nobody teaches you how to actually do it. So let me try to be practical here, because I do not want this to be one more motivational message that makes you feel warm for 20 minutes and then fades like steam off a coffee cup. Here is what being present actually looks like in real life. It means when you are washing the dishes, you feel the warm water on your hands instead of mentally arguing with someone who upset you 3 days ago. It means when your child is telling you about their day at school, you put your phone face down on the table and you look them in the eyes and you listen like what they are saying matters. Because it does, more than you realize. It means when you step outside in the morning and the air is cool and clean, you take one breath, just one, where you're not thinking about work, money, or what might go wrong today. One breath. That is all it takes to start. Not a meditation retreat, not a yoga class, not a digital detox. One conscious breath. That is the doorway. And you have to practice it the same way you would practice an instrument. The first time you try, your mind will wander in about 3 seconds. That is normal. That is not failure. That is just what an untrained mind does. But every time you bring your attention back to the taste of your food, back to the warmth of the shower, back to the sound of your friend's voice, you are building a muscle that eventually becomes strong enough to pull you out of autopilot and back into your own life. Because here is the thing about autopilot. It is comfortable, but it is not living. Autopilot is when you drive to work and arrive without remembering a single turn you made. Autopilot is when you eat an entire plate of food and cannot recall what it tasted like. Autopilot is when you get to Friday and wonder where the week went. Autopilot is efficient. Autopilot gets things done. But autopilot also means you are sleepwalking through the only life you will ever have. And the cruel part is that you will not realize how precious these sleepwalked moments were until they are behind you. Ask anyone who has lost a parent. They will not tell you they miss the vacations the most. They will tell you they miss the ordinary things, the way their mother hummed while cooking, the way their father fell asleep on the couch watching the news, the Sunday afternoon phone calls that felt routine at the time but now feel like treasures they would give anything to have back. Those were small moments, invisible moments, the kind of moments you might scroll past on your phone without a second thought. But they were the fabric of love. They were the proof that someone was alive, present, and part of your world. And they did not seem important until the chair was empty and the kitchen was quiet and the phone stopped ringing. I do not say this to make you sad. I say this to make you awake, because you still have people in your life whose ordinary presence you might be taking for granted. You still have mornings that feel unremarkable, but are actually miracles of biology and chance. You still have senses that work, eyes that can see color, ears that can hear music, hands that can feel the warmth of another person's skin. These are not nothing. These are everything. You have just been looking at them for so long that they became invisible. But now, let us talk about the thing that makes all of this so hard, the thing that sits between you and the present moment like a locked door, the thing that steals more life than any disease, any disaster, any external enemy ever could: worry. I need you to hear this clearly, because it might be the most expensive habit you have. And I do not mean it costs money. I mean it costs something far more valuable. It costs time. It costs presence. It costs the ability to enjoy the life you already have. Worry is a thief that does not break into your house at night. Worry is a thief you invite in, make tea for, and let sleep in your bed. You treat it like a guest that is keeping you safe, when really it is eating you alive from the inside. Let me explain what I mean. Most of the things you worry about will never happen. Studies have shown this again and again. The vast majority of our fears, somewhere around 85 to 90%, never materialize. They are ghosts. They are shadows on the wall that look like monsters until someone turns the light on. But here is the painful irony. Even though those fears never came true, the suffering they caused was completely real. The sleepless nights were real. The tight chest was real. The lost appetite was real. The inability to enjoy a perfectly good afternoon because your mind was 3 weeks in the future rehearsing a catastrophe that would never arrive. That was real. So let me ask you this. If worry does not prevent the bad thing from happening, and the bad thing usually does not happen anyway, then what exactly are you gaining by worrying? What is it giving you other than a false sense of control and a very real sense of misery? Nothing. It is giving you nothing. It is taken from you and calling it protection. Now, I want to be careful here because I am not talking about planning. Planning is useful. If you have a meeting next week, preparing for it makes sense. If you have a bill due on Friday, budgeting for it is wise. That is not worry. That is responsibility. Worry is what happens after the planning is done and your mind refuses to stop. Worry is when you have already done everything you can, and instead of resting, your brain keeps spinning the same dark scenarios on repeat, like a washing machine that will not turn off. And let me be honest with you, worry is addictive. Your brain has convinced you that if you stop worrying, you are being irresponsible, that if you let your guard down, something terrible will happen. That worry is the price of caring, but that is a lie. You can care deeply about your life, your family, your future, and still choose not to torture yourself with imaginary disasters every single day. Think about it like this. Imagine you are carrying a backpack. Every worry is a stone you pick up and put inside. This morning, you worried about a text you sent last night. Stone. At lunch, you worried about whether your boss thinks you are good enough. Another stone. In the afternoon, you worried about your savings. Stone. Before bed, you worried about your health, your kids, your parents, the state of the world. Stone, 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 stone. By the end of the day, your back is breaking and you cannot figure out why you are so exhausted, even though nothing physically difficult happened to you. You are exhausted because you have been carrying weight that was never yours to carry in the first place. Most of those stones, most of those worries, are about things you cannot control. And this is the distinction that can save your life if you really let it in. There is a difference between what you can control and what you cannot. You can control your effort. You cannot control the outcome. You can control how you treat people. You cannot control how they respond. You can control how you spend today. You cannot control what tomorrow brings. You can control the step in front of you. You cannot control the entire staircase. When you try to control the staircase, you freeze. When you focus on the step, you move. So here is what I want you to practice. And yes, it is a practice, not a one-time decision. At the end of each day, or even in the middle of a spiraling moment, ask yourself, is this something I can actually do something about right now? If yes, do the thing. Take the step. Make the call. Write the email. Have the conversation. Handle it. But if the answer is no, if you are worrying about something that has not happened yet, something you have no power over in this moment, then you have a choice. You can keep carrying that stone, or you can set it down. Setting it down does not mean you do not care. It means you are choosing to be alive today instead of dying slowly inside a tomorrow that might never come. And I want you to notice something. When your mind is consumed with worry, look at what it steals from you. It steals your appetite for the food in front of you. It steals your attention from the person across the table. It steals your ability to laugh, to sleep deeply, to feel the sun on your face without immediately thinking about what could go wrong. Worry does not just take your peace. It takes your senses. It takes your ability to be a human being having a human experience. It turns you into a calculation machine, always computing risk, always running simulations of disaster, always bracing for impact. And you cannot live braced for impact. That is surviving. That is existing. That is not living. I read something once that stayed with me. A man who had survived a serious illness said that the strangest part of almost dying was not the fear. It was what happened after he recovered. He said that for about 6 months, everything looked different. Food tasted better. Colors seemed brighter. Conversations felt deeper. He noticed birds he had walked past 1,000 times. He watched sunsets like they were personal messages from the universe. And then, slowly, the magic faded. Life went back to normal. The beauty was still there, but his mind stopped noticing it. He got busy again. He got worried again. He started taking things for granted again. And here is what he said that absolutely broke me. I almost had to die to learn how to live. And the saddest part is, I am already forgetting. That is what we all do. We do not need a near-death experience to wake up. We need a near-life experience. We need something, maybe these very words, to shake us gently and say, hey, you are here, you are breathing, you are alive, and there are 100 small, beautiful things happening around you right now that you are completely missing because your mind is somewhere else. So here is my invitation, not a command, not a lecture, an invitation for the rest of today, just today, that is all. I want you to try something. Every time you catch yourself worrying about something you cannot control, I want you to redirect your attention to something you can experience. Feel the texture of whatever you are sitting on right now. Listen to the sounds in your environment, not to judge them, just to notice them. Look at something nearby and really see it, as if you have never seen it before. This is not meditation. This is not some spiritual exercise. This is just you, choosing to be in your own life for 30 seconds instead of in your head. And if you do it enough times, something starts to happen. The volume of worry turns down, not all the way, but enough. And in that quieter space, you start to hear things you have been missing. The music your life has been playing all along underneath the noise. Because here is the beautiful truth underneath all the worry and all the distraction. Your life is already singing. It has been singing this whole time. The question is not whether the music is there. The question is whether you are listening. And you can start listening right now, not tomorrow, not when life gets easier, not when the problems resolve, right now, with this breath, with this moment, with whatever is in front of you. The small moments are not waiting for you to become successful enough to deserve them. They are waiting for you to become still enough to notice them. And once you do, you will wonder how you ever lived without hearing the music. Stop watching someone else's movie and start living your own. I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Imagine you are sitting in a movie theater. The lights go down, the screen lights up, and a beautiful, exciting, dramatic film begins to play. But here is the twist. It is not your movie. It is someone else's. You are watching their love story, their victories, their adventures, their perfectly edited highlight reel. And at first, it is entertaining. It is inspiring even. But slowly, something starts to happen. You begin to forget that you have your own movie playing, your own story unfolding, your own scenes being written in real time. You are so absorbed in watching someone else's life that you completely abandon your own seat in your own theater. That is what comparison does to you. It pulls you out of your own story and drops you into the audience of someone else's. And from that seat, your life will always look worse because you are comparing your behind-the-scenes footage, the messy, unfiltered, blooper-filled reality, with someone else's final cut. And that is a game you will never win. Let me be real with you about something. Comparison is not just a bad habit. It is a form of self-harm that society has completely normalized. We do it so often and so casually that we do not even register the damage anymore. You open your phone in the morning, and within 60 seconds, you have already compared your body to someone else's, your career to someone else's, your relationship to someone else's, your home to someone else's, your happiness to someone else's. And by the time you put the phone down, something inside you feels a little heavier, a little smaller, a little less than, and the worst part, you cannot even name what happened. You just feel off. You feel like your life is somehow not measuring up, but you do not know to what. It is like a slow poison. You do not taste it, but it is working. Day after day, scroll after scroll, it is quietly eroding your ability to appreciate what you actually have. Here is something I need you to understand about other people's lives, and I mean really understand it, not just nod at it politely and move on. You are only ever seeing a fraction, a carefully selected, intentionally curated, strategically timed fraction. The couple who looks perfect together online had a screaming argument in the car on the way to take that photo. The entrepreneur who just posted about their latest win cried in the shower last Tuesday because the pressure feels like it is crushing them. The friend who seems to have it all together has not slept properly in months because anxiety eats her alive at 3 in the morning. I am not saying this to diminish anyone's success or happiness. I am saying this because you are making life-altering judgments about your own worth based on incomplete information. You are looking at a highlight reel and treating it like a documentary. And then you are turning around and looking at your own unedited, raw, sometimes boring, sometimes painful, sometimes confusing life and thinking, what is wrong with me? Nothing. Nothing is wrong with you. What is wrong is the lens. Think about it like this. You would never judge a book by reading one page from the middle. You would never evaluate a song by hearing 3 seconds of the bridge. You would never assess a painting by looking at one corner through a magnifying glass. But that is exactly what you do when you compare your entire life to a single snapshot of someone else's. You are taking one frozen moment from their story, a moment they chose to show you, a moment they probably filtered and polished and agonized over, and you are holding it up next to the full, unedited mess of your existence and saying, see, I am falling behind. But falling behind what? Behind who? There is no universal timeline for human life. There is no cosmic checklist that says you should be married by 28, wealthy by 35, and fulfilled by 40. Those are inventions. Those are social constructs dressed up as milestones. And every time you measure yourself against them, you are abandoning your own path to chase a road that was never meant for you. Let me tell you something about paths. Every path has its own weather. Some people walk through sunshine early and hit storms later. Some people walk through storms first and find sunshine at the end. Some paths are straight. Some are winding. Some go uphill for years before leveling out. And some look flat and easy from the outside, but have hidden valleys that no one else can see. You do not know what weather someone else has walked through. You do not know what they lost to gain what they have. You do not know what they carry silently, the invisible weight behind the visible success. So when you look at someone else's life and feel that familiar twist of envy in your stomach, I want you to pause and ask yourself a question that might change everything. This question is, would I trade my entire life for theirs? Not just the parts I admire, the whole thing. Their childhood, their losses, their fears, their sleepless nights, their private struggles, their hidden pain, all of it. Would I take the full package? Almost always the answer is no, because you do not actually want their life. You want a fantasy version of their life, the version that only exists in the tiny window they showed you. And comparing yourself to a fantasy is like trying to race a mirage. No matter how fast you run, you will never catch it because it was never real in the first place. Now here is where it gets practical, because awareness alone is not enough. You need a strategy, and the strategy is surprisingly simple, even if it takes discipline to execute. Every time you catch yourself comparing, and you will catch yourself, because it is deeply wired into our psychology. I want you to replace the comparison question with a redirection question. Instead of asking, why is their life better than mine? Ask, how can I make my life better today? Do you see the difference? The first question is a trap. It has no useful answer. It only leads to resentment, envy, and paralysis. The second question is a doorway. It leads to action. It leads to growth. It gives you your power back. Because here is what comparison really does at its core. It takes your power and hands it to a stranger. It says, this person I barely know gets to determine how I feel about my own life. Their photo decides my mood. Their achievement decides my self-worth. Their lifestyle decides whether my lifestyle is good enough. That is an absurd amount of authority to give someone who does not even know your name. Take your power back. The way you take it back is by redirecting your energy from observation to creation. Stop watching. Start building. Stop measuring. Start moving. Stop scrolling through someone else's garden and start watering your own. Even if your garden is small right now, even if only one thing is growing, even if it does not look like anyone else's, it is yours. And a tended garden, no matter its size, will always be more fulfilling than 1,000 gardens you only watched from behind a screen. But I want to take this further, because there is another kind of comparison that people rarely talk about, and it might be even more damaging than the kind we just discussed. It is comparison with your past self, or worse, with the version of yourself you think you should have been by now. Some people do not compare themselves to strangers on the internet. They compare themselves to an imaginary version of themselves, the version that made all the right choices, the version that never wasted time, never made mistakes, never got lost. And they torture themselves with the distance between who they are and who they think they should have been. They say things like, if only I had started earlier, if only I had not wasted those years, if only I had been smarter, braver, more disciplined. But that version of you does not exist. It never existed. It is a fantasy, just like the curated life on someone's profile. And comparing yourself to a ghost is just as destructive as comparing yourself to a stranger, maybe even more so, because the ghost wears your face. You are where you are. That is the starting line, not where you wish you were, not where you think you should be, not where someone your age is supposed to be, where you are. And from this exact spot, with these exact resources, with this exact amount of energy and knowledge and experience, you can take one step forward. That is all growth has ever required, not a perfect past, not an ideal starting position, just one honest step from wherever you happen to be standing. Now, let me shift gears here, because there is a second force that shapes your ability to enjoy life just as much as comparison does, and it does not get nearly enough attention. I am talking about the people around you, the human beings you give your time, your energy, your attention, and your emotional bandwidth to. Because the truth is, you could master every technique for being present, grateful, and self-aware, and still feel miserable if you are surrounded by the wrong people. I want you to think about the people in your life like weather. Some people are sunshine. When you are around them, you feel warmer. You stand a little taller. You breathe a little deeper. You laugh more easily. You feel safe enough to be honest, to be imperfect, to be real. These people do not need you to perform for them. They do not keep a scorecard of your mistakes. They do not make you feel like you have to earn their affection every day. Being around them feels like coming home after a long trip. Something in your body relaxes. And then there are the other kind, the people who feel like winter. Not winter in the cozy, hot chocolate kind of way. Winter in the frost on your windshield, cannot feel your fingers, wish you could stay in bed kind of way. When you leave a conversation with them, you feel drained. You feel smaller. You feel like you just ran a marathon in your own mind. You replay what they said for hours, sometimes days. You second-guess yourself. You feel anxious, guilty, confused, or empty, and you cannot always explain why. Here's what I want you to know. You are not required to keep every person in your life at the same distance. Kindness does not mean unlimited access. Love does not mean no boundaries. Caring about someone does not mean allowing them to consistently damage your peace. You can wish someone well from a distance. You can forgive someone without inviting them back into your living room. You can acknowledge someone's pain without setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. This is hard. I know it is hard, especially if you are someone who has always been the caretaker, the fixer, the person everyone comes to, the one who says yes when they want to say no, because they are afraid of being seen as selfish. But I need you to hear this. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot enjoy your life if your energy is constantly being drained by people who only know how to take. There is a difference between someone who is going through a difficult time and needs support. That is human, and showing up for them is part of love. And someone who has made difficulty their permanent address and expects you to move in with them. The first person is leaning on you temporarily. The second person is leaning on you as a lifestyle. And if you do not recognize the difference, you will exhaust yourself trying to save someone who is not even trying to save themselves. Now let me talk about the flip side of this, because it is equally important. Choosing who you give your time to is one thing, but learning to enjoy your own company, that is the real game changer. Most people are afraid of being alone, and I do not mean physically alone, like being in an empty room. I mean existentially alone, sitting with yourself, with no distraction, no entertainment, no one else's energy to borrow, just you and your own thoughts. For many people, that silence is terrifying, so they fill it. They fill it with noise, with scrolling, with constant socializing, with background TV, with anything that keeps them from having to sit quietly with themselves. But here is the thing about constantly running from your own company. It means you are living with someone you cannot stand, and that someone is you. If you cannot enjoy being alone with yourself, you will always be dependent on others for your sense of peace. You will cling to relationships not because they are healthy, but because the silence is worse. You will tolerate treatment you know you deserve better than, because being with the wrong person still feels safer than being with no one. Learning to enjoy your own company is one of the most liberating things you will ever do. It means your peace is not hostage to anyone else's behavior. It means you choose people from a place of fullness, not emptiness. It means when someone leaves, because people do leave, people change, people move, people grow in different directions. You are sad, but you are not shattered, because your foundation was never built on their presence. It was built on your relationship with yourself. And building that relationship starts the same way any good relationship does, with kindness, with patience, with showing up consistently. You take yourself for a walk. You cook yourself a good meal. You sit in a park and watch the light change without needing to document it for anyone. You journal, you rest without justifying it. You do something creative that no one else will ever see, just because it makes you feel alive. These are not indulgences, these are investments. They are how you build a home inside yourself, so that no matter where you go, no matter who stays or leaves, you always have a place that feels safe. Because at the end of the day, the longest relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. Every other person in your life is a guest. Some stay for decades. Some stay for seasons. Some stay for an afternoon. But you are there for every single moment, from the first breath to the last. And if that relationship is built on criticism, neglect, and constant dissatisfaction, then no amount of external love will ever feel like enough. So be picky about who gets close to your heart, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. Not because you think you are better than anyone, but because you have finally understood that your peace is not a renewable resource. It is a daily allowance, and once it is spent, it is gone until tomorrow. Surround yourself with people who refill you, people who make ordinary moments feel warmer, people who listen like your words matter, people who celebrate your growth instead of feeling threatened by it, people who bring calmness to your chaos instead of adding to it. And when you are alone, because you will be alone sometimes, and that is not a failure, treat yourself the way you would treat someone you deeply love, because you deserve that, not someday, not when you have earned it, not after you have fixed everything that is wrong with you, right now, as you are, with all your mess, all your contradictions, all your unfinished edges. You are worth your own kindness, and once you start giving it to yourself, you will find something extraordinary happens. The comparison quiets down. The need for external validation softens. The anxiety about other people's opinions loses its grip. Not because those things disappear completely. They are human, and being human is a messy business. But because you have something stronger now. You have a relationship with yourself that is not based on performance. It is based on presence. And presence, as we have been discovering together, is where all the real joy has been hiding. Stop watching someone else's movie. Sit down in your own theater. The story playing there is imperfect, unfinished, and sometimes painfully slow. But it is yours. And there is a beauty in that word, yours, that no amount of comparison can ever take away. Stop saving your life for later. Later is not a place you can live. There is a question I want to ask you, and I need you to sit with it for a moment before you try to answer. Do not rush past it. Do not intellectualize it. Just let it land somewhere in your chest and see what it stirs up. If you found out, truly found out, not hypothetically, not as a thought experiment, but as a medical fact handed to you in a quiet room by a doctor who could not look you in the eyes, that you had 1 year left, would you keep living the way you are living right now? Would you still spend 40 minutes doom scrolling before bed? Would you still postpone that trip you have been talking about for 3 years? Would you still hold on to that grudge that has been sitting in your stomach like a stone since last winter? Would you still say, I will call them next week about the person you have not spoken to in months? Would you still stay silent about the things your heart has been begging you to say? Would you still save all your joy for some imaginary future that suddenly no longer exists? I think we both know the answer, and that answer should terrify you, not because you are dying, but because you are living as if you have forever, and you do not. None of us do, not in a morbid way, not in a panic-inducing way, just in the most honest, undeniable, plain as daylight way. Your time here has a limit, and you do not get to see the number on the clock. This is not a new idea. People have been saying it for thousands of years. Ancient philosophers carved it into stone. Poets wrote it into verse. Every wisdom tradition on earth has some version of the same message. Do not waste your days. And yet, most people hear it, agree with it completely, and then proceed to waste their days anyway. Not because they are foolish, but because the illusion of unlimited time is one of the most powerful drugs the human mind produces. It whispers to you every morning, there is always tomorrow, there is always next month, there is always later, and you believe it. You believe it the way you believe the floor will hold you when you step out of bed. It feels so certain that questioning it seems almost ridiculous. But later is not a place. You cannot move there. You cannot set up your happiness in a future that does not exist yet and expect to feel it from here. That is like trying to warm yourself by a fire that has not been lit. You can imagine the heat. You can picture the flames, but your body is still cold right now. And right now is the only temperature that actually matters. I want to tell you about something I think of as the someday shelf. Picture a shelf in your mind, a long, dusty shelf where you store all the things you have promised yourself you will get to eventually. On that shelf sits the book you have been meaning to read, the language you have been meaning to learn, the conversation you have been meaning to have, the habit you have been meaning to start, the person you have been meaning to become, the life you have been meaning to live. That shelf is getting crowded, and the dust is getting thick. And every time you add something new to it, you feel a small sense of relief, because putting it on the shelf feels like doing something, even though it is actually the opposite. It is the most elegant form of doing nothing. It is procrastination wearing a responsible outfit. And here is the part that breaks my heart. Some of the things on that shelf have an expiration date. The trip you wanted to take with your parents, their knees are getting worse every year. The apology you owe someone, they might not be in a place to hear it forever. The creative project you've been carrying in your head like a secret, your inspiration will not wait indefinitely. The rest your body has been asking for, It has been sending you signals for years, and one day it will stop asking politely and start demanding. The things on your someday shelf are not frozen in time just because you put them there. They are aging. They are changing. Some of them are quietly disappearing. And when you finally reach for them, you may find that the moment has passed, the window has closed, and the shelf is holding nothing but regret. I do not say this to frighten you. I say this to free you from the most dangerous assumption a human being can make. The assumption that there will always be more time. Let me tell you about a pattern I have seen again and again, and maybe you will recognize it in yourself. It goes like this. A person works incredibly hard. They sacrifice sleep, relationships, hobbies, health, spontaneity, and joy, all in service of a future life that they believe will finally be worth enjoying. They tell themselves that the grind is temporary, that the exhaustion has an expiration date, that once they reach a certain point, a certain income, a certain title, a certain number in the bank, they will finally slow down and start living. But here is what usually happens. They reach that point, and instead of slowing down, their brain immediately moves the goalpost. The number that was supposed to be enough is no longer enough. The title that was supposed to bring peace now feels like a stepping stone to the next title. The life that was supposed to begin after this milestone is once again postponed, because there is always one more thing to achieve before happiness is allowed to start. This is a hamster wheel. And the terrifying thing about a hamster wheel is not that it is hard to run on. It is that you can run on it your entire life and never actually get anywhere. You can exhaust yourself completely, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and end up in the exact same spot you started, still waiting for life to begin. I want to be very clear about something here because I do not want you to misunderstand me. I am not telling you to stop working. I am not telling you to abandon your ambitions. I am not telling you that goals do not matter. They do, deeply. Having something to work toward gives life structure and meaning. The problem is not the work. The problem is when the work becomes the only thing. When you have trained yourself so thoroughly to chase the next thing that you have completely lost the ability to sit with the current thing. When you are so addicted to forward motion that standing still, even for a moment, even to breathe, even to appreciate how far you have come, feels like failure. It is not failure, it is living. And there is a difference between those two that our culture has made almost impossible to see. We live in a world that worships productivity, that equates rest with laziness, that treats busyness as a status symbol and exhaustion as a badge of honor. And somewhere inside that machine, you internalized a belief that might be quietly ruining your life. The belief that you do not deserve to enjoy anything you have not yet fully earned. But when is anything fully earned? When is the work truly done? When is the checklist finally complete? Never. There will always be another item, another goal, another obligation, another reason to postpone the moment when you finally allow yourself to exhale and say, "This is good. I have enough. I am enough. This moment is enough." Let me offer you a different way to think about it. Imagine your life as a long road trip. The destination matters. Of course it does. You want to arrive somewhere meaningful. But if you spend the entire drive white-knuckling the steering wheel, staring at the GPS, refusing to look out the window, skipping every rest stop, never pulling over to stretch your legs or look at the view, then what was the point of the trip? You will arrive at your destination exhausted, hollow, and unable to enjoy it because you burned yourself out getting there. The road trip is not just about the destination. The road trip is the whole thing. The songs you played, the coffee you drank at that little gas station in the middle of nowhere, the sunset you saw between two hills, the conversation you had with someone you love while the miles rolled by underneath you. Those are not interruptions to the trip. Those are the trip. And if you skip them all, you did not take a road trip. You just endured a commute. Your life is the same way. The small joys along the way are not distractions from the real thing. They are the real thing. The real thing is not waiting for you at some finish line. The real thing is happening right now, in this unremarkable, imperfect, messy, ordinary moment that you keep dismissing as not good enough. Now, I want to talk about something that lives on the other side of this conversation, something heavier, something most people do not think about until it is too late to do anything about it. I want to talk about regret. Regret is not just an emotion. It is a mirror. It shows you with brutal clarity the gap between the life you lived and the life you could have lived, and the most painful kind of regret, the kind that sits in your chest like a cold weight, is not about the things you did wrong. It is about the things you never did at all. People at the end of their lives rarely say, "I wish I had worked more overtime." They rarely say, "I wish I had spent more time worrying." They rarely say, "I wish I had been angrier, more guarded, more afraid." What they say again and again, with a consistency that is almost eerie, is this: "I wish I had not waited so long to be happy. I wish I had told them I loved them. I wish I had forgiven sooner. I wish I had worried less about what people thought. I wish I had spent more time doing things that made my soul feel alive. I wish I had been kinder to myself. I wish I had enjoyed the ordinary days instead of always chasing extraordinary ones." These are not the regrets of people who failed at life. These are the regrets of people who were so busy preparing for life that they forgot to actually live it. And the cruelest part is that most of these regrets are about things that were completely available to them the entire time. Forgiveness was always available. Kindness was always available. A phone call to someone they loved was always available. A walk in the park, a slow meal, a deep breath, a moment of gratitude, all of it was right there, waiting. They just kept putting it on the someday shelf, and someday never came. I do not want that for you. I genuinely do not. And I know that might sound strange coming from a voice you are reading on a screen, but something about this message matters to me, and I hope it matters to you too. Because you are reading this while you still have time. You are hearing this while your someday shelf can still be emptied. The people you want to call are still alive. The body you want to take care of is still carrying you. The joy you keep postponing is still within reach. The apology, the forgiveness, the rest, the laughter, the honesty, all of it is still available to you right now. But it will not always be. So please, stop treating today like a rough draft. Stop living as if the real version of your life starts after this phase is over. This phase is your life. The messy middle is your life. The uncertainty is your life. The imperfection is your life, and it is not less valuable because it is unfinished. A half-bloomed flower is still beautiful. A song in the middle of being written already has melody. A life in progress is still a life worth enjoying. I want to leave you with something practical before we move on. Something you can do today, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. I want you to pick one thing from your someday shelf and do it. Not the biggest thing, not the scariest thing, just one thing. Maybe it is sending that message you have been composing in your head for weeks. Maybe it is going for a walk without your phone. Maybe it is cooking a meal slowly with music on and actually enjoying it instead of treating dinner like a task to complete. Maybe it is saying something kind to yourself, out loud in the mirror, even if it feels ridiculous. Maybe it is lying on the floor for 5 minutes and doing absolutely nothing and being completely okay with that. Whatever it is, do it today. That's because today is the only day you can actually touch. Yesterday is a memory. Tomorrow is a promise. But today, this imperfect, ordinary, unremarkable today is real. It is solid. It is yours. And every time you choose to enjoy something today instead of saving it for later, you are making a radical statement to the universe. You are saying, I refuse to waste this. I refuse to treat my life like a waiting room. I refuse to postpone joy until conditions are perfect because I have finally understood that perfect conditions are a myth and waiting is just another word for losing. One more thing. I want to talk about forgiveness for a moment because it is tangled up with regret in a way that most people do not see until the knot has gotten too tight to undo. Some of you are carrying anger right now, not the hot, explosive kind, the cold kind, the kind that has settled into your bones like winter, the kind you have been holding so long that it does not even feel like anger anymore. It just feels like who you are. Someone hurt you, someone betrayed you, someone failed you, and you have been carrying that weight around like a suitcase full of bricks, waiting for them to apologize, waiting for justice, waiting for the universe to even the score. But here is what I have learned about carrying bricks. They do not get lighter with time. They get heavier. And every day you carry them is a day your arms are too full to hold anything else, like peace, like joy, like the ability to be fully present in a moment without the past dragging you backward. Forgiveness is not about them. It was never about them. Forgiveness is about you deciding that you have carried this long enough. It is about you choosing your future over your past. It is about you saying, this happened, it hurt, and I am not going to let it own the rest of my life. You do not have to forget. You do not have to reconcile. You do not have to pretend it did not matter. You just have to put the suitcase down, not for their sake, for yours. Because your arms were not made for carrying bricks. They were made for holding the people you love, for reaching toward things that make you feel alive, for stretching wide open under a sky that still has beauty in it. And the same goes for forgiving yourself. Maybe you are the one you are most angry at. Maybe you are the one you keep punishing. Maybe you look back at who you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you cringe. You think about the time you wasted, the people you hurt, the chances you missed, and you beat yourself up for it with a cruelty you would never direct at anyone else. Stop. Please stop. That version of you did the best they could with what they knew at the time. They were not trying to ruin your life. They were trying to survive it. And the fact that you now see things more clearly does not mean you should use that clarity as a weapon against your former self. It means you have grown. And growth deserves compassion, not punishment. You cannot change what already happened, but you can change what happens next. And what happens next starts with putting down the bricks, the ones other people gave you and the ones you made yourself, and walking forward with lighter hands. Because life is not meant to be lived with clenched fists. Life is meant to be lived with open palms, open to receive, open to release, open to hold gently what is here and let go gracefully of what is not. Stop saving your life for later. Later is not a place you can live. The only place you can live is now. And now is still available. Now is still breathing. Now is still waiting for you to show up. Not perfectly, not confidently, not with everything figured out. Just honestly, just presently, just here. That is enough. You are enough. And this day, however ordinary it may feel, is enough to begin. Your life is already playing. Stop missing it while you search for the remote. I want to tell you something that might sound strange at first, but stay with me because I think it might be one of the most important things in this entire conversation. You do not need to find happiness. You need to stop blocking it. That sounds backwards, I know. We have been taught our whole lives that happiness is something you chase, something you hunt, something that lives at the end of a very long and exhausting obstacle course, and if you just keep pushing, keep climbing, keep grinding, one day you will reach it, and everything will finally click into place. But what if that model is completely wrong? What if happiness is not at the end of anything? What if it has been here the whole time, sitting quietly in the corner of your life like a patient friend who keeps showing up even though you never seem to notice? Think about it like this. Imagine you're in a room and the sun is shining outside. The light is warm and golden and it is pouring through the window. But you have hung heavy curtains over every window, not because you hate the sun, but because you got so used to living in the dark that you forgot the curtains were there. You keep walking around the room, bumping into furniture, wondering why everything feels so dim, and all along the light was right there. You just needed to pull back the curtain. Your worries are curtains. Your comparisons are curtains. Your resentment, your guilt, your addiction to busyness, your need for approval, your fear of not being enough. These are all curtains. And behind every single one of them, there is light. Not a blinding, perfect, solve all your problems kind of light, but a gentle, steady glow. The kind that helps you see what is actually in the room. The kind that reminds you, oh, right, I have a life here, and there are good things in it. I just could not see them in the dark. This is what protecting your peace really means. It is not about building walls. It is not about becoming cold or detached or indifferent to the world. It is about learning which curtains to pull back and which storms you do not need to stand in. It is about understanding that your inner world, the space between your thoughts, the quiet beneath the noise, is the most important real estate you will ever own. And you have been letting anyone and anything set up camp there without your permission. Let me ask you something. If your mind were a house, what would it look like right now? Would it be peaceful? Would it be organized? Would it feel like a place you actually wanted to be? Or would it be chaotic, cluttered with old arguments you are still replaying, future scenarios you are still rehearsing, other people's opinions stacked in piles against the walls, and a constant low hum of anxiety buzzing in every room like a refrigerator you have learned to ignore, but that never actually stops? Most people's mental houses look like the second version, not because they are weak or broken, but because nobody ever taught them that they are the landlord. Nobody ever told them that they get to decide what stays and what goes, that they are allowed to evict the thoughts that do not pay rent, that they can renovate the rooms, that they can open the windows and let fresh air in and sweep out the dust of old pain that has been accumulating in the corners for years. You are the landlord of your own mind, and the moment you start acting like one, everything changes. This starts with something deceptively simple: noticing what you are letting in. Not just the big things, the major stressors, the toxic relationships, the obvious sources of pain. Those matter, and we have talked about them. But I am talking about the small daily inputs that most people never question. The way you start your morning. Do you reach for your phone before your feet even touch the floor, immediately flooding your brain with other people's emergencies, opinions, and highlight reels? The conversations you participate in, are they nourishing you or depleting you? The content you consume, is it making you feel inspired and alive or anxious and inadequate? The way you talk to yourself, if someone else spoke to you the way your inner voice speaks to you, would you keep them in your life? These are not small questions. These are the questions that determine the quality of your daily existence, because your life is not shaped by the 3 or 4 big decisions you make each year. Your life is shaped by the hundreds of tiny decisions you make each day. The decision to check your phone or to look out the window. The decision to complain or to notice something good. The decision to engage in an argument or to protect your energy. The decision to criticize yourself or to say, I am doing my best and that is enough. Each one of these micro decisions is a vote for the kind of life you are building. And when you start voting differently, not perfectly, not every time, but more often than before, the architecture of your inner world begins to change. The rooms get a little brighter. The noise gets a little quieter. The air gets a little easier to breathe. Now, I want to address something that I think stops a lot of people from protecting their peace, and it is this: guilt. So many people feel guilty for choosing peace. They feel like prioritizing their own calm is selfish, like taking a step back from drama is abandonment, like saying no to something that drains them is a failure of character. Like resting when there is still work to be done is proof that they are not trying hard enough. Let me dismantle that right now. Resting is not quitting. Boundaries are not betrayal. Saying no is not cruelty. And choosing peace is not the same as choosing indifference. You can be a deeply caring, compassionate, generous human being and still refuse to set yourself on fire every day for people and situations that would not even hand you a glass of water. In fact, I would argue that protect your peace makes you more capable of love, not less. Think about the last time you were completely exhausted, emotionally, mentally, spiritually drained. How much love did you have to give? How patient were you? How present were you with the people who mattered most? Probably not very. because you had nothing left. You had given everything to worry, to people-pleasing, to overthinking, to carrying responsibilities that were not even yours to carry. And the people who actually deserved your energy got the leftovers. That is what happens when you do not protect your peace. The people and things you care about most get the worst version of you, because the best version was wasted on things that did not deserve it. So protecting your peace is not selfish. It is strategic. It is how you make sure that when you do show up for people, and you will because that is who you are, you show up with something real to offer, not the hollow, resentful, running on fumes version of yourself, but the rested, present, grateful version. The version that can actually listen. The version that can actually laugh. The version that can actually be there not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, with their whole heart in the room. That version of you is worth protecting, and protecting it requires making choices that might look strange to people on the outside. Leaving the party early, not responding to every message immediately, taking a walk alone when everyone expects you to be available, spending a Saturday doing absolutely nothing and not apologizing for it. These are not signs of weakness. These are signs that you have finally understood something that most people spend their entire lives missing. Your energy is finite, your time is limited, and how you spend both of those things determines whether your life feels like a gift or a grind. Let me shift now to something that ties everything we have talked about together, because I do not want this to end as just a conversation about problems. I want it to end as a conversation about possibility. Here is what I believe with everything in me. Your life, the one you are living right now, not the one you are planning, not the one you are imagining, not the one you see someone else living on a screen. Your life has beauty in it, real, tangible, available right now beauty. And I am not talking about the kind of beauty that requires a sunset over the ocean or a mountaintop view or a perfect moment frozen in time. I am talking about the beauty that lives in the ordinary, the beauty that most people walk past every single day without a second glance, the steam rising from a cup of tea on a cold morning, the way the light changes in your room between afternoon and evening, the sound of someone you love laughing in another room, not even with you, just nearby, just alive, just existing in the same space, the feeling of clean sheets, the taste of cold water when you are truly thirsty, the way your body feels after a stretch you did not know you needed, the specific shade of blue the sky turns right before it goes dark. These things are not nothing. They are the raw material of a beautiful life, and you do not need to add anything to them. You do not need to filter them or frame them or share them with anyone. You just need to be there for them, fully, quietly, presently there. This is what awareness means, not some mystical floating above your body's spiritual state. Just the simple human act of paying attention to the life you are already in, noticing the texture of your day instead of sleepwalking through it, feeling the temperature of the air on your skin, hearing the specific quality of silence in your home at night, tasting your food like someone who is grateful to have it. Awareness is not complicated. It is just rare, because we have built an entire civilization around distraction. We have created a world that is constantly shouting at you, pulling your attention in 14 directions at once, making you feel like if you stop consuming scrolling, producing, and performing for even a minute, you will fall behind. And in that chaos, the quiet beauty of your actual life does not stand a chance unless you protect it, unless you fight for it, unless you make a conscious, daily, stubborn decision to be here in this moment with whatever it holds. And yes, sometimes what it holds is pain. Sometimes what it holds is uncertainty. Sometimes what it holds is grief or confusion or the heavy ache of not knowing what comes next. I am not going to pretend that every moment is beautiful. Some moments are hard. Some seasons are brutal. Some days the best you can do is survive until tomorrow. But even in those days, especially in those days, there is something worth noticing. Maybe it is the fact that you made it through. Maybe it is the small kindness a stranger showed you. Maybe it is the way your body kept breathing even when your mind wanted to give up. Maybe it is the stubborn, irrational, beautiful fact that hope still flickers somewhere inside you even when everything around you is dark. That flicker is enough. You do not need a bonfire. You just need enough light to take the next step. And that is really all I am asking you to do. Not to transform your entire life overnight. Not to become some perfectly enlightened, always grateful, never struggling version of yourself. Just to take one step. One small, honest, imperfect step toward being more present in the life you already have. Maybe that step is putting your phone in another room during dinner tonight. Maybe it is telling someone you love them, not because it is a special occasion, but because it is a Tuesday and they are alive and so are you. And that is reason enough. Maybe it is forgiving yourself for something you have been carrying for too long. Maybe it is sitting outside for 10 minutes with no agenda, no productivity goal, no justification, just you and the sky and the strange miracle of being conscious on a spinning rock in the middle of infinite space. Whatever your step is, take it today, not because tomorrow is too late, maybe it is not, but because today is here. Today is certain. Today is the one day you can actually touch with your own hands. And let me tell you what happens when you start taking these steps. It is not dramatic. There is no orchestra. There is no montage. There is no moment where the clouds part and golden light pours down and everything is suddenly perfect. What happens is quieter than that, and in some ways, more powerful. You start noticing things, small things, the way the morning light hits your kitchen table, the way your child hums to themselves while drawing, the way your partner reaches for your hand without thinking about it, a gesture so small and so habitual that you stopped registering it years ago. You start noticing these things again, and each time you do, something inside you softens, something loosens. Some knot you did not even know you were carrying begins to untangle. You start feeling grateful, not in the forced, performative way, but in the real way, the way that catches you off guard, the way that makes your eyes sting for a second because you suddenly realize you are here, alive, breathing, and there is a cup of tea in your hands and nowhere you absolutely have to be for the next 5 minutes, and somehow that is enough. Somehow that is everything. You start choosing differently. You start saying no to things that drain you and yes to things that fill you. You start walking away from conversations that leave you feeling heavy. You start spending more time with people who make your chest feel warm instead of tight. You start treating your body like something precious instead of something to punish. You start speaking to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love, with patience, with kindness, with the understanding that growth takes time and perfection was never the goal. And slowly, so slowly that you almost do not notice it happening, your life starts to feel different. Not because your circumstances changed, not because you got the promotion or lost the weight or found the perfect relationship, but because you changed, because you woke up, because you stopped waiting for life to become something worthy of your attention and started giving your attention to the life that was already happening. That is the whole secret. That is what this entire conversation has been building toward. It is not complicated. It is not hidden behind some paywall or reserved for people who have their lives together. It is available to everyone right now for free, and it fits in a single sentence. Your life is already happening. Stop missing it. Stop missing it while you're busy planning a better one. Stop missing it while you are comparing it to someone else's. Stop missing it while you are drowning in worry about things that have not happened yet. Stop missing it while you are carrying grudges that only weigh you down. Stop missing it while you are waiting for permission to be happy. You do not need permission. You never did. The door was always open. You were just too busy looking for the key to notice. So here is my final invitation. Not a command, not a lecture. An invitation from someone who cares about how you spend the rest of your time here. Live today, not perfectly, not without mistakes, not without fear, but awake, present, honest, kind, to others and to yourself. Grateful for what is here, gentle about what is not. Brave enough to let go of what needs to be released. Soft enough to receive what is trying to reach you. Laugh at something stupid today. Breathe deeply at least once. Tell someone they matter. Eat something and actually taste it. Look at the sky. Sit still for a moment without reaching for your phone. Let yourself feel whatever you are feeling without judging it. Forgive someone, even if that someone is you. Rest without guilt. Exist without performing. Be alive without trying to prove it to anyone, because one day, and neither of us knows when, this will all be a memory. The people, the places, the sounds, the smells, the particular way the world looks from where you are sitting right now, all of it will become something that was. And when that day comes, I do not want you to look back with clenched fists and a heart full of if only. I want you to look back with open hands and a quiet, honest, peaceful voice that says, I was there. I was really there. I did not live perfectly, but I lived presently. I did not have everything, but I appreciated something. I did not waste it all on worry and waiting and wanting more. I stopped, at least sometimes. I noticed, at least sometimes. I breathed, at least sometimes. And in those moments, those small, ordinary, unremarkable moments, I was fully, completely, beautifully alive. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Do not waste your life forgetting how to enjoy every day. The music is already playing. The light is already shining. The door is already open. All you have to do is walk through it. That version of you is worth protecting, and protecting it requires making choices that might look strange to people on the outside. Leaving the party early, not responding to every message immediately, taking the walk alone when everyone expects you to be available, spending a Saturday doing absolutely nothing and not apologizing for it. These are not signs of weakness. These are signs that you have finally understood something that most people spend their entire lives missing. Your energy is finite, your time is limited, and how you spend both of those things determines whether your life feels like a gift or a grind. Let me shift now to something that ties everything we have talked about together, because I do not want this to end as just a conversation about problems. I want it to end as a conversation about possibility. Here is what I believe with everything in me. Your life, the one you are living right now, not the one you are planning, not the one you are imagining, not the one you see someone else living on a screen. Your life has beauty in it, real, tangible, available right now beauty. And I am not talking about the kind of beauty that requires a sunset over the ocean or a mountaintop view or a perfect moment frozen in time. I am talking about the beauty that lives in the ordinary, the beauty that most people walk past every single day without a second glance, the steam rising from a cup of tea on a cold morning, the way the light changes in your room between afternoon and evening, the sound of someone you love laughing in another room, not even with you, just nearby, just alive, just existing in the same space, the feeling of clean sheets, the taste of cold water when you are truly thirsty, the way your body feels after a stretch you did not know you needed, the specific shade of blue the sky turns right before it goes dark. These things are not nothing. They are the raw material of a beautiful life, and you do not need to add anything to them. You do not need to filter them or frame them or share them with anyone. You just need to be there for them, fully, quietly, presently there. This is what awareness means. Not some mystical floating above your body's spiritual state, just the simple human act of paying attention to the life you are already in, noticing the texture of your day instead of sleepwalking through it, feeling the temperature of the air on your skin, hearing the specific quality of silence in your home at night, tasting your food like someone who is grateful to have it. Awareness is not complicated. It is just rare. Because we have built an entire civilization around distraction. We have created a world that is constantly shouting at you, pulling your attention in 14 directions at once, making you feel like if you stop consuming, scrolling, producing, and performing for even a minute, you will fall behind. And in that chaos, the quiet beauty of your actual life does not stand a chance unless you protect it, unless you fight for it, unless you make a conscious, daily, stubborn decision to be here in this moment with whatever it holds. And yes, sometimes what it holds is pain. Sometimes what it holds is uncertainty. Sometimes what it holds is grief, confusion, or the heavy ache of not knowing what comes next. I am not going to pretend that every moment is beautiful. Some moments are hard. Some seasons are brutal. Some days the best you can do is survive until tomorrow. But even in those days, especially in those days, there is something worth noticing. Maybe it is the fact that you made it through. Maybe it is the small kindness a stranger showed you. Maybe it is the way your body kept breathing even when your mind wanted to give up. Maybe it is the stubborn, irrational, beautiful fact that hope still flickers somewhere inside you, even when everything around you is dark. That flicker is enough. You do not need a bonfire. You just need enough light to take the next step. And that is really all I am asking you to do. Not to transform your entire life overnight. Not to become some perfectly enlightened, always grateful, never struggling version of yourself. Just to take one step, one small, honest, imperfect step toward being more present in the life you already have. Maybe that step is putting your phone in another room during dinner tonight. Maybe it is telling someone you love them, not because it is a special occasion, but because it is a Tuesday and they are alive, and so are you, and that is reason enough. Maybe it is forgiving yourself for something you have been carrying for too long. Maybe it is sitting outside for 10 minutes with no agenda, no productivity goal, no justification, just you and the sky and the strange miracle of being conscious on a spinning rock in the middle of infinite space. Whatever your step is, take it today. Not because tomorrow is too late, maybe it is not, but because today is here. Today is certain. Today is the one day you can actually touch with your own hands. And let me tell you what happens when you start taking these steps. It is not dramatic. There is no orchestra. There is no montage. There is no moment where the clouds part and golden light pours down and everything is suddenly perfect. What happens is quieter than that, and in some ways more powerful. You start noticing things, small things, the way the morning light hits your kitchen table, the way your child hums to themselves while drawing, the way your partner reaches for your hand without thinking about it, a gesture so small and so habitual that you stopped registering it years ago. You start noticing these things again, and each time you do, something inside you softens, something loosens, some knot you did not even know you were carrying begins to untangle. You start feeling grateful, not in the forced, performative way, but in the real way, the way that catches you off guard, the way that makes your eyes sting for a second because you suddenly realize you are here, alive, breathing, and there is a cup of tea in your hands and nowhere you absolutely have to be for the next 5 minutes, and somehow that is enough. Somehow that is everything. You start choosing differently. You start saying no to things that drain you and yes, to things that fill you. You start walking away from conversations that leave you feeling heavy. You start spending more time with people who make your chest feel warm instead of tight. You start treating your body like something precious instead of something to punish. You start speaking to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love, with patience, with kindness, with the understanding that growth takes time and perfection was never the goal. And slowly, so slowly that you almost do not notice it happening, your life starts to feel different. Not because your circumstances changed, not because you got the promotion or lost the weight or found the perfect relationship, but because you changed, because you woke up, because you stopped waiting for life to become something worthy of your attention and started giving your attention to the life that was already happening. That is the whole secret. That is what this entire conversation has been building toward. It is not complicated. It is not hidden behind some paywall or reserved for people who have their lives together. It is available to everyone right now for free, and it fits in a single sentence. Your life is already happening. Stop missing it. Stop missing it while you are busy planning a better one. Stop missing it while you are comparing it to someone else's. Stop missing it while you are drowning in worry about things that have not happened yet. Stop missing it while you are carrying grudges that only weigh you down. Stop missing it while you are waiting for permission to be happy. You do not need permission. You never did. The door was always open. You were just too busy looking for the key to notice. So here is my final invitation, not a command, not a lecture, an invitation from someone who cares about how you spend the rest of your time here. Live today, not perfectly, not without mistakes, not without fear, but awake, present, honest, kind, to others and to yourself, grateful for what is here, gentle about what is not, brave enough to let go of what needs to be released, soft enough to receive what is trying to reach you. Laugh at something stupid today. Breathe deeply at least once. Tell someone they matter. Eat something and actually taste it. Look at the sky. Sit still for a moment without reaching for your phone. Let yourself feel whatever you are feeling without judging it. Forgive someone, even if that someone is you. Rest without guilt. Exist without performing. Be alive without trying to prove it to anyone, because one day, and neither of us knows when, this will all be a memory. The people, the places, the sounds, the smells, the particular way the world looks from where you are sitting right now, all of it will become something that was. And when that day comes, I do not want you to look back with clenched fists and a heart full of if only. I want you to look back with open hands and a quiet, honest, peaceful voice that says, I was there. I was really there. I did not live perfectly, but I lived presently. I did not have everything, but I appreciated something. I did not waste it all on worry and waiting and wanting more. I stopped, at least sometimes. I noticed, at least sometimes. I breathed, at least sometimes. And in those moments, those small, ordinary, unremarkable moments, I was fully, completely, beautifully alive. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Do not waste your life forgetting how to enjoy every day. The music is already playing. The light is already shining. The door is already open. All you have to do is walk through it.